welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we're talking about a couple of new items from BYREDO, and I do have a little short with some swatches of these already, but this is the new BYREDO Dysco palette, and that's disco spelled with a Y instead of an I, and I think it's gorgeous. So I'm fairly obsessed with this palette right now, absolutely loving it, and let's go ahead and start off talking about the products. I have several looks and comparisons to show you as well today. So just a little information. We have this kind of packaging here. So this is what it comes in. I ordered directly from BYREDO.com, but it is also available on Selfridges, and it's a little bit less expensive on Selfridges. So if you have the Selfridges global shipping or you are in Europe, that might be a better option for you. But you have one of these, push boxes, and the palette comes in a white canvas bag here. When you order directly from BYREDO.com, they always give you a couple of perfume samples as well. So this is the back of the box. The palette is 8 grams. It's made in Italy, and it has a 12-month shelf life. When you open the palette, it does come with a little plastic cover to protect the eyeshadow. Make sure it's not getting in the mirror. You're welcome to keep that. I just, never do. And then this is the actual palette. So if you are familiar with the BYREDO palettes of this shape and size, it's kind of like a pebble compact. So one thing to note, obviously storage of these is not super easy. You can't really stack them or anything, but it is a very pretty heavyweight compact, and it has a magnetic closure here. One thing to note, some people like the size of these pans, some people don't. They personally don't bother me because they are wide enough for my finger to go through or wide enough for a brush, but just know, you're sweeping a brush vertically, you're not able to swirl it in there super easily. So that's kind of a con about the packaging, in my opinion. Now, before we go into details on the actual eyeshadow and the formula and so forth, I'm going to show you the other item that I picked up. This is the new liquid eyeliner in Practical Brown. That's the name of the shade. It's made in Germany. It has a 9-month shelf life. And this is what the packaging of the actual eyeliner looks like. So it does come in a box. There's no bag or anything for this, but this one retails for, I think, $40 US, and the eyeshadow palette is $70, and they're both less expensive on Selfridges. So this is the actual product. So down here it says BYREDO eyeliner, and you have color information on the bottom, and then you have this wand here, and I believe it's a felt tip, but looking at this eyeliner, you can't really tell while it's wet, but it's a deep brown with gold sparkles. And then when this dries, you see a lot more of that golden sparkle. So it's not just a plain brown liquid eyeliner. There is something a little different about it. Now, I have to say that the formula of this eyeliner is actually fairly easy to use. I am not good with liquid eyeliner, but this, you can see how quickly it's drying. It dries fairly rapidly, and it's a little bit of a drier formula. So, when you're putting it on, it's not goopy. It's not if you have a little bit too much in a spot, it doesn't feel like it's gonna run down your face or anything like that. So if you take the eyeliner and you take it directly from the pot and start applying it, it applies the same as another eyeliner, just like this, with the same little well that you're dipping into and so forth. It's wet, you might end up with a thicker line because you have more product on there and so forth. But if you go ahead and scrape it all off, because it's kind of a drier formula, it's almost like a liquid pencil. So you can actually get a really thin, fine point on it. And you can see in the demo, today I actually ended up wiping some off on my cloth as well. But you can see how easy it is to draw with. And then it dries very quickly. And I haven't had any issues with any flaking or drying or smudging or anything like that with this eyeliner. I have done wear tests for a few days now where I've had it on for over 12 hours each day, and absolutely no issues, and it removes easily. So I actually really like the formula. So now that it's dry, I'm not even sure. I feel like the camera doesn't really pick it up so much, but can you see the gold flecks in there? So there's like really fine gold micro glitter in the eyeliner, and I haven't noticed any irritation or anything from this. I also haven't had any of the glitter kind of like drift down, any fallout or anything throughout the day. It stays put in the eyeliner. So I think it's pretty nice. One thing I'd like to note though is when you do have it on your eyes, the gold glitter is not that evident. I mean, you'd have to look closely really to see it. It's one of those things that when the light hits it a certain way, you'll notice, oh, there's something a little different about that. But it's not something like somebody's gonna see and be like, oh, wow, you've got glitter in your eyeliner. So it's really more of the subtle nuance when the light hits it just right and sparkles a little bit. So let's talk about the Disco palette. And I have all of the BYREDO eyeshadow palettes of this type. And so I don't have the big prismatic palette, but I have Sciomancer, I have Corporate, and what's the other one? Siren. So I have all of those. And I have to say that, you know, the formulas in them have been a little bit inconsistent. So if you've watched my reviews on the other BYREDO eyeshadow palettes, I like all of them. And I think the formula is nice on all of them. So even though they're not all exactly the same, they're all really nice formulas. But the one that I prefer is the Sciomancer. It's like the creamiest, and it just has this like magical look on your eyes. Let me just show you the palettes real quickly. So this one here is Sciomancer. This last shade here is a glitter. I don't like this, so I don't even count that. But these four shades here, I mean, you can see what the purple one looks like. That's how creamy they are. That's not hard pan or anything. Like they're just like truly creamy and pigmented on the eyes. They blend out well, and they have this like magical satin metallic kind of finish to them that's really unique, and I love it. This one here is Siren, and the shades in here are not all the same type of formula. You know, you can tell just by looking at it that they're not all going to be the same. But I have to say that, you know, the pink and the light green here, you know, in general, the shades in this palette just didn't perform as beautifully as Sciomancer's, and they are different. I think they're intended to be that way, but so, you know, they're nice. They're just not as good, in my opinion. And then we have Corporate here, which I know a lot of people love this palette. It's the most neutral of the three that were released at that time. And even if you're looking at these formulas here, I mean, you can tell right away, we've got a matte shade here. It's definitely going to be different, but even the creamier ones, still the Sciomancer ones are even better. They're like creamier, they don't get crumbly. You know, sometimes when you have something like really creamy, it gets a little crumbly. So then I would have to say that the Disco palette may be a new favorite here because it has that same type of formula as Sciomancer. They're all very, very creamy. They all blend out well. I mean, look at these shades here and you can see the finish on them. And let me just show you, you know, how they blend. And these all blend so beautifully. And one of the things that's nice about this formula is these are pretty opaque shadows. You can put them on top of each other and you can completely like disguise whatever color is below it if you kind of like pat it on. But if you wanted to kind of blend those out, they will blend and merge together beautifully and give you this gorgeous transition. Now, one other thing I'd like to mention about these shades or these shadows in general is that they last. They last all day and they look just as fresh as when you put them on, even 12 hours later. They don't crease. There's like, I have not had any fallout. They wear like iron, but they're easy to remove at the end of the day. And they just look stunning. I have gotten, you know, my husband never really notices my makeup or anything like that. This is something he's actually commented on. So it's rare. So if you look at my eyes right now, you can see how the finish and everything looks. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, when you go take it off, this is what it will look like. So it still looks that fresh, that vibrant, that, you know, just that metallic-y look without any signs of wear. So I am totally in love with the formula here. I think this formula and Sciomancers, to me, they seem like they are the same type of formula, and they are my favorites of these BYREDO palettes. And I have to say that the promo photos of this made this look a lot more red than it really is. And I almost passed on it. I was all set to pass on it. I even posted on Instagram that I had decided to pass. And then for some reason, I just couldn't stop thinking about the palette. And it was like bothering me like all day. It was just kept thinking about it. So I ended up ordering it that night. And yeah, I was so happy when I received it because it's definitely not as warm as it looks in the promo photos. And you can see here from the swatches that yes, these are warm neutrals. It is described as a warm neutral palette, but you know, you've got some undertones in there that do kind of help cool it off a little bit as well. So like this last shade here is going to be cooler in tone. So we've got a lot of comparisons here. Overall, I definitely have to say that this is probably the best BYREDO eyeshadow palette, in my opinion, that they have put out yet. So I'm going to share with you a few eye looks right now, and then we're going to come back and do some comparisons. And, you know, obviously, I mean, these are essentially my final thoughts. It's a fantastic palette. The eyeliner is really nice as well if you're in the market for something like that. So let's go ahead and get started with the looks. And this is Disco. I mean, look how stunning this is. It looks more red in the promo photos, but it definitely looks more brown, like warm neutrals, you know, in person. So I cannot wait to play with this. You can actually see like, you know, some other shades in here, like brown and gold. Like when you look up close, you can see, you know, some of the different tones that are mixed in there. So we're going to get started. I'm going to take the Esom V34 and I'm going to go into this second shade here, which I believe is called Haze. So I'm going with this very lightly and it's going on like a dream. I mean, look at that. Wow. So I'm going to take the same brush into this deepest shade, which is called Faux Fur. And I'm just going to get a tiny bit of this on the brush and just stamp it on here in the outer corner. So I wiped off this brush and I am just going to kind of buff a little bit of the deeper shade here in the crease, just where it touched already. So that blends a little bit nicer. You can see it's going to be deeper there now. All right, and next I'm going to use my finger to go into this second to last shade called Velvet. And we're just going to put this on. You can see this one's definitely more reddish. I'm going to put this just lightly tapped over the deepest shade here. And I'm using my finger in the lightest shade called Feather. We'll do the inner portion with that. And just lightly tapping over where they meet. You can see that they, you know, I mean, you can see both shades there. We're going to blend that in a second. All right, so I'm wiping off my finger and I'm just going to kind of play with these two, kind of just transitioning them together a little bit more. All right, so I have those blended as much as I want to blend them. I'm just going to take a little bit of the middle shade called Flare, and I'm just going to dab this on. This is like a gold shade, just a little bit right here in the center. All right, so now I'm just taking the Esom brush that I used before and just kind of blending the crease a little bit again. And I'm taking the Sonicgy Pencil 1 into the second shade here called Haze, and I'm going to put that on the lower lash line. Just going to take a tiny dab of Faux Fur for the very outer portion of the lower lash line. Just very softly here. All right, and then I'm taking the eyeliner. This is Practical Brown, and we're gonna put this on the upper lash line. All right, so here's kind of an exaggerated wing. Not great, but you know, it's not my forte. Overall, I have to say I love this eyeshadow though. This eyeshadow look I really like. So I'm gonna finish my makeup. I'll show you a distant shot. All right, so this is the final look from a distance. I wanted to keep everything else fairly simple. The eyes are definitely the star today. So on my lips, I have one of the new Guerlain Kiss Kiss Shine Bloom lipsticks, and this is number 119 Floral Nude. And you can see this is what it looks like here. It's gonna be, you know, more of a sheer look there. And then on my cheeks, I have my own blush creation, the Meteorites mix that I created. If you haven't seen that yet, that is in the Makeup Mondays episode with the Sisley Blur Expert Powder. So check that out if you haven't already. And then I also have the Guerlain Meteorites Pearl Dust highlight on to kind of accent up here at the top. I mixed all three of the shades together. The Surratt Brow Pomade in light brown, and the mascara is the Sisley So Stretch in dark brown. And by the way, foundation, Koh Gen Do Moisture 012, and I set it with the Koh Gen Do Brightening Moisture Powder in Blurry Beige. That's everything that I have on today. Okay, so I'm going to use the Esom V34 in a mix of these two lighter shades for the crease. And then we're going to go in with the same brush into the deepest shade, and we're gonna blend this out. So I'm just gonna get a little bit here, put it on the outer corner, and I'm just using little motions to kind of spread that. And same brush, wiped it off, going into the lightest shade, Feather, and going from the inner corner and working over. Wiped off the brush, just gonna dab the tiniest bit. I mean, you can't even really see it on here for under the brow. Just get a little bit of shimmer there. And then I'm taking the Sonia G Pencil 1. I used this one yesterday, so it's dirty, but I'm gonna go into the middle gold shade for the lower lash line here. And I'm just going to dip it just a little bit into the deeper brown before I apply it. Wiping off the brush and just dragging that closer to the inner corner. Pencil brush into the lightest shade for the inner corner. For the eyeliner, I'm going to actually wipe away what is on the edges of it to have it kind of a little bit drier and, you know, not so goopy. And I'm going to attempt a baby wing. This is the eye look up close, and I will see you in a second. This is the final look from a distance, and on my skin I have the Merit complexion stick in silk on my cheeks, and then on top of that is the Givenchy Prisma Libre Skincare and Glow Foundation in shade 1N95. I have on one of the Melt Blush Lights. This is Honey Thief. And for highlight, I have the Guerlain Terracotta stick in Nude. And mascara is the Lancome Lash Idole. And that's all I have on at the moment. Thanks. All right, so I have the Viseart eye primer on today, and I'm using the Spectrum and Katie Jane Hughes brush collection today. So this is brush 10. I'm going to start off in the second shade called Haze, and just going to add a little bit of this to the crease. Now you can see that this brush, it looks like a crease brush, but it's like angled. So I think that looks interesting. So just getting some product on here, and I'm putting the larger part of the angle towards the outer corner and just dabbing a little bit and then spreading. All right, next I'm going to use my finger in this shade here called Velvet. It's the second to last shade, so the fourth shade. Just going to get a little bit on my finger and just kind of tapping this on. And next I'm going into the gold shade in the middle called Flare. And I'm using my finger for this one as well. And just going to put these together here. And now I'm going back with that 10 brush and just kind of blending those together in the center. You can see like it looks like a burnished sunset. And just kind of blending those shades in the crease a little. Next I'm taking brush 18 in the lightest shade Feather. I'm going to take some more of Haze for the lower lash line using the same brush. Next, I'm taking the 09 into the deepest shade Faux Fur, and I'm just going to use this to line the upper lash line. All right, so if you want a more subtle eyeliner, obviously this palette does work just fine for that. I do want to use the liquid eyeliner again as well, and I just tried to do, you know, just a little bit with the powder there, so I kind of know where I'm going. So with this eyeliner, I'm actually going to wipe off everything on the side of the brush here, get it kind of as dry as possible, because I really don't want a lot of product. So I just wiped a little bit more off on my cloth, just so, you know, there's definitely nothing goopy, because I just want a very, very thin layer. And now I'm just taking this brush here and just feathering that a little bit. All right, so that's it. I mean, wings are not my forte, so I will show you a distant shot after I finish my makeup. All right, so I hope that was helpful to really see how these shadows perform. They perform beautifully with brushes or with your fingers. And, you know, I just wanted to note that you can see like the side of the pan here gets a little messy. There is a little like, it's not like fallout because it's not in your face, but, you know, fallout from the pan when you are using these. So I do have like a few little things speckled on my table here where, you know, I tapped off my brush and so forth. So just something to note that it is a little bit messy on the surface. It doesn't go onto your face that way. I have not had any fallout or anything on the actual face. So as gorgeous as the other BYREDO palettes are, Corporate is the closest. So this is the only one we are going to swatch. I'm gonna put this one, and you can see, you know, by my fingers, the different finishes here. All right, so you can see that Corporate, and you know, honestly, just looking at swatches, I would think that Corporate would be my favorite compared to Disco. But if you look at the way that these kind of reflect in the light versus the Disco, it's just, this formula is so much nicer, in my opinion. So I really like Corporate as well, but you can see here just from the swatches, the difference in the formula, and I just prefer Disco's formula that much more. And next up, let's take a look at the Tom Ford Desert Fox quad. This one came out recently, and you know, I feel like with the shades in this, you do have some similarities, but the palette itself overall doesn't have those similarities. So if you look at these shades, you can see right off the bat that this gold shade here is much more yellow in Desert Fox compared to the BYREDO, which is more of like this bronzy gold instead. And then we've got more of these like coppery tones, whereas here we're looking more at like clay, like colors that you would see in the desert. So I really think that the most similar shade in this would be the gold shades, and then this deepest shade here in Desert Fox would be more comparable to this one here. Now keep in mind the Desert Fox quad, except for the gold, these are all mattes. So part of the thing that you want to think about is what kind of finish you prefer. We also have Tom Ford Honeymoon here. Let's see if I can squeeze this in here. Okay, so here is Honeymoon compared to BYREDO Dysco. And you can see that overall, you know, Honeymoon is just, it's more pinks and, you know, more, this one's a little bit more purpley, but the tones of it are definitely cooler in Honeymoon. And again, the biggest thing about this palette for BYREDO is the finish, the formula of these. So we do have a little bit of a similarity with colors. The deepest shade in Honeymoon is kind of like a slightly lighter version of this deepest shade in BYREDO, which is like a brown shade with some purpley plum tones in there. And then also here, you know, you kind of have this champagne shade, which is, you can see that it's actually more champagne in Honeymoon, more of a soft gold in BYREDO. So I also have a bunch of single eyeshadows that we are going to compare. So we're going to start with some of the Chantecaille luminescent eye shades. This is the Lion shade, and this is the one they describe as golden copper. So we're going to put that right up here at the top. And you can see that it's more of a mix of these two shades in BYREDO. It has a beautiful finish as well. And then this is the Cheetah shade from Chantecaille. And let's put that one right here. You can see that it's much more white. Doesn't have the gold that is in the BYREDO Dysco palette. And next we have the Giraffe Luminescent Eye Shade from Chantecaille. This one is described as burnished brown. Put that one right here. You can see that this is going to be a much cooler tone brown compared to the BYREDO shades. These BYREDO shades all have a bit more red and purple in it than the Giraffe. Then we're going to take a look at the Chanel singles from the holiday collection. So this first one is 928 Queer Brun. So we've got this shade here. And again, this is going to be cooler in tone. I'm just going to put a little bit of it right here. But you can see that it's going to be much more similar to like a browner version of this green shade in Corporate. Next, we have number 925 or Antique, also from this same collection. I'm going to squeeze that one in right here. And you can see that the Or Antique is kind of a mix of the more golden champagne and the middle bronzy golden shade in BYREDO. And then this one here is 926 or Blanc. And I don't think this one is going to really go with any of them. Yeah, you can see it's going to be, it just has completely different tone to it. And then for completion's sake, 927 Quiver Rose from the same collection. And I think this is going to be too pink for anything. But yeah, you can see here that it doesn't really go. And then this is one of the Chanel Ombre Premieres 56 Grandeur. This is from the Chanel Holiday 2019 collection. So I'm going to put that one, let's see here, put it right here. That one is going to be more similar. Let me see if I can get those side by side. All right, so this is the Chanel at the top, and this is the middle shade in the BYREDO. You can see that those are definitely going to be the best dupes I have. The Chanel is a little bit more yellow, whereas the BYREDO has a little bit more of that orangey coppery tone to it, but they're very close. So real quickly, let me just go through the shades in this palette with you. So this latest shade from BYREDO is called Feather, and you can see that it is a soft champagne gold. Next up, we have Haze, which has some warm pinkish tones to it, but it's kind of like a soft copper, like kind of like a watered down copper shade. The shade in the middle, this golden shade, is called Flare. And again, that's going to be kind of a bronzy gold kind of shade. Next up, we have Velvet, which is a warm reddish brown, more red in it than brown. And then the last shade here is called Faux Fur. And you can see that it's a really deep brown with purple tones to it. So when you spread it out, you get more of those purple tones, and it's going to be cooler in tone than anything else in this palette. I personally really like that shade because it blends out nicely, and pairing it with the other shades kind of cools down my look a little bit. I hope those comparisons were helpful. I don't have a ton of warm tone palettes. It's not something I typically gravitate towards. They usually don't look that great on me, but there was something about this palette that just kept nagging me. I had to get it. So, and I'm really happy I did, because I think that this palette, the way everything blends together, is beautiful. The formula is fantastic. I like having this cooler tone shade in here that can kind of mix so well to cool down anything else. And, you know, we do have, these are warm tone neutrals, just as BYREDO says, but, you know, they're not all overly warm. These two here, Flare and Velvet, they are definitely going to be the warmest two in the quint here. These other two are going to be, you know, warmer neutrals. So they're like neutral going to warm, whereas these two are definitely warm. And this one here is going to be a cooler tone. So, you know, you still have a variety of undertones in there. Overall, it's warm, but I don't think it's overly warm. And I really like the combinations and how they mix. And they mix well with the Corporate palette as well. So, you know, if you have Corporate and you love it, this might be one that you are interested in picking up to kind of, you know, broaden your you know, collection there. But if you have not picked up any of the BYREDO eyeshadow palettes like this and you have been interested in trying them out, this is the one that I would pick up. If I had to pick any one of them, I think Disco is my number one. If you love bright colors, go with Silent Mancer, but if you're looking for something more neutral, definitely Disco. And just one more thing I'd like to mention is on my lips today, I'm wearing the BYREDO lipstick in Commuter, which I picked up originally when they first launched, and I haven't really loved the color. So I just kind of dabbed it on lightly and put some clear lip balm on top of it. And the color goes so well with this particular palette. So this is it. You can see it's a warm pink. And I really like the formula of these. I think the packaging is neat also. But with my normal color choices, this shade is just usually too warm in tone, but it goes really nicely with this particular palette. Now, as for the eyeliner, if you're in the market for a liquid eyeliner, this is a nice one to pick up. I actually really like the formula of it. I don't use liquid eyeliners a ton, so it's one of those things, like I would definitely pick this up if I'm in the market, but it's not a rush out and buy type of thing for my purposes. So just one more time though, to show you what it looks like. I like how it has kind of that matte finish, and I like the applicator. So definitely a nice product. I have to say, I think in general, BYREDO, items, they have been hit or miss, and, they haven't been super consistent yet, but I'm hoping that'll change. And this is definitely a fantastic, fantastic palette. I can't say it highly enough. I really like it. So definitely check it out for sales. I'll have all purchasing information down below in the description box if you're interested. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I will see you very soon. Have a great day and stay safe and healthy.